Can a childhood dream become a lifetime promise? Can the person who once stood before you as a teacher one day become the love of your life? And what if the greatest love stories are not written by chance, but by destiny itself? The young man stood quietly beneath the falling snow, holding a small velvet box in his trembling hands. Across from him stood the woman he had admired for most of his life. She smiled through tears. Neither of them spoke. Because sometimes, the heart remembers people long before life brings them together. And sometimes, love waits patiently until the right season arrives. Before we continue this heartwarming and inspiring story, kindly like, share, comment, and subscribe to Elvis the Great Stories for more emotional African stories filled with love, suspense, life lessons, hope, and inspiration. Turn on the notification bell so you never miss another amazing story. In a quiet town in Nigeria lived a bright young boy named Ethan Williams. Ethan was intelligent, respectful, and full of dreams. When he was in primary 5, a new teacher arrived at the school. Her name was Grace Johnson. Grace had recently graduated from university and had accepted a teaching position while preparing for the next stage of her career. She was kind. She was patient. She encouraged every child to believe in themselves. Whenever she entered the classroom, her smile brightened the room. Every pupil admired her. But no one admired her more than Ethan. He listened carefully to every lesson she taught. He completed every assignment with joy. Not because he wanted praise, but because he wanted to make his favorite teacher proud. Grace often noticed Ethan's determination. "You are a brilliant boy," she would tell him. "Never stop believing in yourself." Those simple words stayed with Ethan for years. Eventually, Grace left the school to continue her studies. The day she said goodbye, Ethan felt as though someone had taken away a light from his world. He never forgot her. Years passed. Ethan finished primary school. Then secondary school. Through hard work and determination, he earned admission into one of Nigeria's most respected universities. On his very first week on campus, something unbelievable happened. As he walked across the university courtyard, he suddenly froze. There she was. Grace. The same teacher he had admired as a little boy. She was now pursuing a higher degree at the same university. Grace recognized him almost immediately. "Ethan." He smiled. "Mom, it's really you." Both of them laughed with surprise. Life had reunited them in the most unexpected way. They began greeting each other around campus whenever they met. Slowly, they became good friends. But Ethan's childhood admiration had quietly grown into something much deeper. He had fallen in love. One afternoon, Ethan finally gathered enough courage to speak. "Grace." "Yes. I have something important to tell you." She smiled. "I'm listening." "I love you." Grace stared at him in complete surprise. Then she laughed softly. "Ethan, you were once my pupil. And besides, I am older than you. I don't think this can work." Although her words were gentle, Ethan's heart broke. But instead of giving up, he respected her decision. He never pressured her. He simply continued treating her with kindness, honesty, and respect. Day after day, his actions spoke louder than his words. Grace slowly realized that Ethan was no longer the little boy she once thought. He had become a responsible young man. One evening, after attending a university seminar, Grace began walking back to her hostel. The campus road was unusually quiet. Suddenly, a group of young men stepped into her path. Fear filled her heart. Before she could react, a familiar voice shouted, "Grace." It was Ethan. Without thinking about himself, he ran toward her. He stood between Grace and the men. He begged them to leave her alone. In the confusion that followed, Ethan was seriously injured while protecting her. The attackers fled as nearby students rushed to help. Ethan was taken immediately to the hospital. Grace remained by his bedside. For days she barely left the hospital. She prayed constantly for his recovery. Then one morning, Ethan slowly opened his eyes. The first person he saw was Grace. Tears rolled down her cheeks. "You protected me. You almost lost your life because of me." Ethan smiled weakly. "You were worth protecting." At that moment, Grace realized something. This was not childish admiration. This was genuine love. As Ethan recovered, Grace visited him every day. One afternoon she asked softly, "Tell me the truth. When did you begin loving me?" Ethan smiled. "I don't think I ever stopped." Grace looked confused. "What do you mean? You remember the little boy who always sat in the front row of your classroom?" Grace nodded. "That little boy admired his teacher every single day. I never imagined life would bring us together again. But when I saw you at the university, I knew my feelings had only grown stronger." Grace wiped away her tears. "You carried this in your heart all these years?" Ethan nodded. "Yes." Grace gently held his hand. "And today, I choose you." After graduating from university, Ethan and Grace worked hard together. They built successful businesses. They invested wisely. Years of discipline and determination transformed their lives. Eventually, they became one of the most admired billionaire couples in Africa. Yet despite their wealth, they remained humble. They created scholarships for children from poor families. They built schools. They supported young teachers. Grace often smiled whenever she entered a classroom, because every child reminded her of the little boy who once believed in himself because of her encouragement. Many years later, Ethan surprised Grace with a special wedding anniversary celebration in Switzerland. Snow gently covered the mountains. Beautiful lights reflected across the peaceful lake. Family and close friends gathered to celebrate their journey. During the dinner, Ethan stood and raised his glass. He looked lovingly at Grace. "You once taught me mathematics. But the greatest lesson you ever taught me was to believe in myself." The room became silent. Grace smiled through tears. Then she replied, "And you taught me something even greater. That true love is not measured by age, but by loyalty, respect, sacrifice, and the courage to stand by someone when it matters most." Everyone applauded. It was a moment they would never forget. Years later, whenever young people asked Ethan the secret behind their beautiful marriage, he always smiled before answering. "Never judge love by appearances or age alone. Judge it by character. Judge it by kindness. Judge it by the sacrifices people are willing to make for one another." Then he looked at Grace, still holding her hand after all those years. Finally, he turned toward the audience and asked, "How many beautiful love stories never begin because people are afraid of what others might think? How many faithful hearts are overlooked because they arrive in unexpected ways? And what if the person who truly loves you has been quietly believing in you all along?" Because real love is not built on perfect timing. It is built on trust, on respect, on sacrifice, and on two hearts that never stop choosing each other.